What happens when America's sweetheart meets her breaking point on live television? What we're about to witness is one of the most shocking moments in daytime TV history, where Kelly Clarkson, known for her bubbly personality and infectious laugh, completely loses it on Craig Melvin during what was supposed to be a routine interview segment. This isn't your typical celebrity meltdown. This is raw, unfiltered emotion that nobody saw coming. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think really pushed Kelly over the edge. The morning started like any other at the Today Show studios. Kelly Clarkson had arrived early for what everyone believed would be a standard promotional interview for her latest album. She'd done hundreds of these appearances, always bringing her characteristic warmth and authenticity to every conversation. Craig Melvin, known for his thoughtful interviewing style, had prepared what he considered to be engaging questions that would give fans insight into Kelly's creative process and personal journey. As the cameras rolled and the familiar Today Show theme music faded, Creig flashed his professional smile and began the interview with what seemed like harmless small talk. "Kelly, it's always such a pleasure to have you here. You look absolutely radiant today." Kelly's response was polite, but noticeably more reserved than usual. "Thank you, Creig. It's good to be here." The first few minutes proceeded normally, with Creig asking about Kelly's new music and upcoming tour dates. Kelly answered each question professionally, but those paying close attention could detect a certain tension in her voice, a tightness that suggested something was bothering her. Beneath the surface, then Creig shifted gears, diving into more personal territory. "Now, Kelly, I have to ask about something that's been making headlines recently. There have been reports about your management team making some significant changes, and some sources are suggesting there might be some drama behind the scenes. Can you shed some light on what's really happening?" Kelly's entire demeanor changed in an instant. Her smile faltered, and for a brief moment, viewers could see something flash across her face: anger, frustration, maybe even betrayal. She took a deep breath before responding, clearly trying to maintain her composure. "Creig, I think there might be some confusion about what you're referring to. My team and I are doing great, and I'd prefer to focus on the music today. But Creig, perhaps sensing a story, or simply following his prepared notes, pressed forward. I understand wanting to keep things positive, but these reports are coming from pretty reliable sources. They're saying there were some heated arguments about creative control, and that you've been difficult to work with lately. Is there any truth to that?" The word difficult seemed to hit Kelly like a physical blow. Anyone who knew her history in the industry understood why that particular term would be so triggering. She'd spent years fighting against that label, working twice as hard as her male counterparts to prove she was collaborative and professional. "Difficult?" Kelly's voice rose slightly, though she was still trying to keep things under control. "Creig, I think you might want to check your sources on that one. I've been in this business for over 2 decades, and I've never had issues working with people who respect me as an artist." Creig, either not picking up on the warning signs or choosing to ignore them, continued down the same path. "But Kelly, these aren't just random gossip blogs reporting this. We're talking about industry insiders who say you've been making unreasonable requests, and that several people have quit your team recently because they couldn't handle working with you anymore." The studio fell silent except for the quiet hum of cameras and equipment. Kelly stared at Creig for what felt like an eternity, her jaw clenched and her hands gripping the arms of her chair. When she finally spoke, her voice was dangerously quiet. "I need you to stop right there, Creig. I came here to talk about my music, not to defend myself against unnamed sources spreading lies about my character. But Kelly, surely you can understand that our viewers are curious about these reports. You've built your brand on being relatable and down to earth. So when stories come out suggesting otherwise, people want answers." That's when something inside Kelly snapped. The careful control she'd been maintaining crumbled, and the raw emotion she'd been holding back came flooding out. "You want answers? Here's an answer for you, Creig. Those unnamed sources you're so eager to quote, they're the same people who tried to control every aspect of my career from day one. The same people who told me I was too fat, too loud, too emotional, too much of everything they didn't want me to be. And now, because I finally have the courage to stand up for myself and my artistic vision, suddenly I'm difficult." Creig tried to interject, perhaps realizing he'd pushed too far, but Kelly wasn't finished. Do you know what it's like to have every decision you make questioned? To have people assume that because you're a woman with opinions, you must be impossible to work with. I've been nothing but professional my entire career, but apparently, that doesn't matter when someone wants to create drama where none exists. The tension in the studio was palpable. Crew members exchanged glances, and you could see Craig starting to sweat under the lights. This was not how anyone expected this. Interview to go. Craig attempted to regain control of the interview, his voice taking on that patronizing tone that many hosts use when they feel a guest is getting too emotional. Kelly, I think maybe you're overreacting a little bit here. These are just questions that our audience wants answered. We're not attacking you personally. The word overreacting was like gasoline on a fire. Kelly's eyes flashed with a fury that viewers had never seen from her before. She leaned forward in her chair, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, overreacting. Craig, let me tell you what overreacting looks like. Overreacting would be me walking off this set right now and never doing another interview with this network again. What I'm doing is trying to educate you on how harmful this kind of journalism is to women in this industry. But Craig, perhaps, feeling pressure from his producers or simply digging in his heels, wouldn't let it go. Kelly, I appreciate your passion, but these stories are out there whether we discuss them or not. Wouldn't it be better to address them head-on rather than getting defensive? Kelly's voice cracked with disbelief. You ambush me on live television with gossip and rumors, and when I defend my reputation, I'm being defensive. Do you hear yourself right now? The camera operators were getting some incredible footage, zooming in on Kelly's face as her emotions played out in real time. This was the kind of raw, unscripted television that networks dreamed of, but it was coming at a cost that nobody had anticipated. Craig tried a different approach, attempting to sound more sympathetic. Look, Kelly, I can see this is really bothering you, and that wasn't my intention. But you have to understand that as journalists, we have a responsibility to ask tough questions. Tough questions? Kelly stood up abruptly, her chair rolling backward. A tough question would be asking me about my songwriting process, or how I've evolved as an artist. What you're doing is repeating unverified gossip and trying to make me look bad on national television. Several crew members had stopped what they were doing to watch the confrontation unfold. The director was frantically signaling to Craig through his earpiece, but it was too late to stop the train wreck that was happening live on air. Kelly, please sit down. Let's try to have a productive conversation here, Craig said, his professional mask starting to slip as he realized how badly this was going. Productive, Kelly laughed, but there was no humor in it. Craig, you want productive? Let me be productive for you. Let me tell you exactly what those sources of yours, conveniently, left out of their little stories. Yes, I've made changes to my team recently. Yes, I've had disagreements with people. But do you know why? She didn't wait for him to answer, because for the first time in my career, I have enough power and success to actually stand up for myself. Because I'm tired of being told that my ideas aren't good enough, that my instincts are wrong, that I should just smile and do whatever the men in suits tell me to do. And apparently, that makes me difficult. Craig shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The interview had completely derailed, and he was struggling to figure out how to get it back on track. Kelly, I think you're misunderstanding the intent behind these questions. No, Craig, I understand perfectly. You brought me here under the pretense of discussing my music, and then you blindsided me with tabloid garbage. You thought you could get me to break down and give you some dramatic sound bites for your show. The accusation hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Craig's face flushed red as he realized that Kelly had seen right through the setup. This wasn't journalism, it was entertainment masquerading as news, and she was calling him out on it. That's not fair, Kelly. We genuinely wanted to give you a platform to tell your side of the story. My side of the story. Kelly's voice rose again, her composure finally completely shattered. My side is that I've worked my butt off for over 20 years in this business. My side is that I've sold millions of albums, won multiple awards, and built a career on talent and hard work. My side is that I've been nothing but professional and kind to everyone I've worked with, even when they didn't deserve it. She paused, taking a shaky breath before continuing, but apparently none of that matters when you need content for your show. Apparently, it's more interesting to paint me as some kind of diva than to actually celebrate what I've accomplished. Craig made one last desperate attempt to salvage the situation. Kelly, I think there's been a misunderstanding here. Why don't we start over and focus on your new album? But Kelly was done. She grabbed her purse from beside her chair and looked directly into the camera. You know what? Start over. No, Craig, I'm not starting over. I'm finishing this conversation on my terms. Her voice was steady now, filled with a quiet strength that was somehow more powerful than her earlier anger. To everyone watching at home, I want you to remember this moment. Remember what it looks like when someone tries to tear down a woman who has worked hard to build something meaningful. Craig looked panicked. The producers were screaming in his earpiece. The director was making frantic hand signals, and the entire studio felt like it was about to explode. But Kelly wasn't finished. I came here today excited to share my new music with people who might enjoy it. Instead, I got ambushed with gossip and lies designed to make me look bad. And when I defended myself, I got called defensive and told I was overreacting. Does that sound familiar to anyone watching? Because it should. She turned back to Craig, who looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair. You want to know what's really difficult, Craig? It's sitting here trying to have a conversation with someone who clearly has no respect for me or my career. It's having to smile and be polite while someone tries to destroy your reputation based on anonymous sources and rumors. Kelly, please. Let's just take a breath here, Craig stammered, but his voice lacked any authority now. Don't tell me to take a breath, Kelly shot back. I've been taking breaths for 20 years, while people like you have tried to minimize my accomplishments and reduce me to whatever narrative sells better. I'm done taking breaths. I'm done being polite. I'm done pretending this is okay. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the crew had stopped moving, transfixed by the raw emotion playing out in front of them. This wasn't just a celebrity having a meltdown. This was a human being reaching her absolute breaking point after years of accumulated frustration. Craig made one final attempt to regain control. Kelly, I think maybe we should wrap this up and... Oh, we're definitely wrapping this up, Kelly interrupted, her voice dripping with sarcasm. But not because you want to. We're wrapping this up because I have more self-respect than to sit here and let you continue this charade. She stood up again, this time with purpose and determination. You know what the real story is here, Craig? The real story is that a successful woman stood up for herself when someone tried to tear her down with lies. The real story is that I refused to play along with your little game of trying to make me look bad for your entertainment. Craig's face was now completely red, and sweat was visible on his forehead. Kelly, I never intended to make you look bad. These questions came from legitimate concerns. Kelly's laugh was sharp and bitter. From who? Your anonymous sources who are too cowardly to put their names on their lies. Your producers who thought it would be fun to watch me squirm on national television? The accusation hit like a thunderbolt. Everyone in the studio knew she was right. This had been a setup from the beginning, designed to create exactly the kind of dramatic television they were now getting. We just thought. Craig stumbled over his words, no longer able to maintain his professional composure. You thought what? That I would just sit here and take it? That I would smile and nod while you repeated gossip about me? That I would be grateful for the opportunity to defend myself against lies on your show? Kelly slung her purse over her. Shuldahan took a step toward the edge of the set. Well, here's a newsflash for you, Craig. I don't need your show. I don't need your platform. And I sure as hell don't need your permission to be successful. The cameras were still rolling, capturing every moment of this unprecedented meltdown. The directors were torn between wanting to cut to commercial and knowing they were witnessing television gold. Kelly, wait, Craig called out desperately, finally understanding the magnitude of what was happening. Maybe we can reschedule. Do this again when Kelly spun around, her eyes blazing. Reschedule. Do this again? Craig, do you honestly think I would ever come back here after this? Do you think I would ever put myself in a position to be ambushed and humiliated by you again? I wasn't trying to humiliate you, Craig protested weakly. Then what were you trying to do? Kelly demanded. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you invited me here specifically to embarrass me on live television. It looks like you prepared questions designed to make me angry so you could get good footage of me losing it. The truth of her words hung in the air like a smoking gun. Everyone knew she was absolutely right. "And you know what the worst part is?" Kelly continued, her voice breaking slightly with emotion. "I actually liked you, Craig. I thought you were one of the good ones. I thought you actually cared about having real conversations with your guests instead of just trying to create controversy." Craig looked like he'd been punched in the gut. The personal disappointment in Kelly's voice was somehow worse than her anger had been. "Kelly, I save it." Kelly cut him off. "I'm done listening to excuses. I'm done being polite. And I'm definitely done with this interview." She started walking toward the exit, her heels clicking loudly on the studio floor. The sound echoed through the silent studio like gunshots. Craig made one last desperate plea. "Kelly, please don't leave like this. Let's finish the conversation." Kelly paused at the edge of the set and turned back one final time. When she spoke, her voice was calm but filled with steel. "The conversation is finished, Craig, and so is my relationship with this network. Congratulations, you got your dramatic television. I hope it was worth it." And with that, she walked off the set, leaving Craig sitting alone with his microphone and the stunned silence of an entire television crew. The cameras kept rolling for several more seconds, capturing his shocked expression and the empty chair. Where Kelly had been sitting just moments before, what do you think really pushed Kelly to her breaking point? Was it justified, or did she go too far? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories like this one.